these land home packages are a really interesting concept to me. What do you have to do? I mean, kind of talk about the process there. What do you have to do to make that sellable?
So when compared to house flipping, it is a lot simpler in some ways and a lot more difficult in other ways. And our main challenge when we started was we had no clue how to develop land. We had never done that before. We had plenty of experience with moving mobile homes around and setting them up because of our parks, but we had never done anything with land subdividing and going through the county processes, all of that.
What are the challenges?
Yeah, absolutely. There's plenty of challenges. Like I was mentioning earlier, our main challenge, at least starting out, was the process of developing land. We just had no idea how to do anything of that. And so fumbling through the subdivision process, going through all the county hoops to get everything done, that was a learning curve for sure. And that's one of those things that once you do it once or twice, you kind of know it, but it will vary county by county.
Yeah, South Carolina doesn't have a lot of other rules. That's
what I'm saying. It's extremely weird.
It's really weird one to be so particular about. There's not a lot of rules happening in South Carolina. Hi everyone, I'm Jason Balara and this is the Know Your Why podcast. Today I'm here with Chris Gavre. He began his entrepreneurial journey at just 20 years old when he started a pressure washing business. Through that business, he met a mentor who introduced him to real estate, and then earned his real estate license at 22. So, Chris, I'll stop there and I'm going to let you tell your story. But first, I want to say thank you. Thanks for taking the time out today to join me. Excited for the conversation. Funny enough, my uncle had a pressure washing business that I worked in for a lot of years. From a young age. So I actually know that business pretty well. So interesting to see. You don't see that in a lot of places. So it's
no, absolutely.
Cool. But thanks for being on the show today. I am looking forward to this, and I'd love to just kind of get your background in your words.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I appreciate you having me on here. Yeah, so as you mentioned, back when I was 19 or 20, I started a little pressure washing company. I was actually listening to the Sweaty Startup podcast. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but I was looking for a business to start in some capacity just to start making some money. And on his podcast, he talked about how he liked the pressure washing business. And so I went and rented a pressure washer and washed my mom's house to see if I was capable of doing that. And I was like, wow, a monkey can do this. I think I can do it. This was 2019, beginning of 2019. Started doing the pressure washing. I had a part-time job, so I would just kind of take my pressure washer to work with me, and then when I get off at like 2 o'clock, I go wash a house or whatever. And then in January 2020, I decided to quit my part-time job, go into pressure washing full-time, which in hindsight was an awful idea because it was the middle of winter time, and no one really wants their house washed in the winter, but did it anyways. It worked out. Of course, as you know, 2 months later, COVID happened. So everyone was at home and tired of looking at their dirty house. So things started picking up for me on the pressure washing side. Around the same time, I met a realtor that worked at EXP. And I was always watching his houses, his listings, and things that he was flipping and all that as well. One day, he sat me down in his office and was like, man, what's your goal? Because at this time, I was, 21, 22 years old. And I was like, I want to make $100,000 a year. That was the biggest I could think at the time. And he's like, well, that's a lot of houses to wash. Like, you should think about getting into real estate. And so I would go wash his houses and then go sit in his office with him. And he kind of showed me how he broke down the numbers for houses that he'd flip for rental properties or things like that. And so he kind of planted the seed more than anything. But he encouraged me to go get my license. So I went and got my real estate license. I got officially licensed in November of 2020. And first transaction I ever did, it was my mom's neighbor's house. He wanted me to list it for him. And it was a kind of a rundown house. And so I listed the house for him. And this lady came along. She was also a realtor that was going to buy it. And I saw her 2 months later in the office because she ended up joining the broker does that. And I was like, hey, what did you ever end up doing with the house? And she's like, oh, I wholesaled it. I was like, what do you mean you wholesaled it? Which I'm sure you're familiar with wholesaling, of course, correct? Yeah. Okay. I think so. I was like, how much did you make on it? She said, I made about 20 grand on it. I was like, what in the world? I made like $900. It was like a $50,000 house. And I was like, man, I made $900 after I paid my brokerage and all of that. And she's like, yeah, you should get into wholesaling. So beginning of 2021, about 2-3 months after I was licensed, she convinced me to get into wholesaling. So her and I started working together. I would cold call, find properties, She would disc phone and kind of tell me what to offer because I had no clue what I was doing. But anyway, started wholesaling with her beginning of 2021. That worked out for a couple of months with her, and then we ended up kind of parting ways, just different places in life. Nothing bad there, but it just didn't work out. But I continued to wholesale after that. And so I would pick up houses to flip along the way or rental properties, just whatever I could do to get some hard money and figure it out. And so all through 2021, 2022, I was wholesaling. And about halfway through 2022, the licensing board in South Carolina came out with a new regulation that wholesalers or agents rather can't wholesale. And so I actually had someone on Facebook report me to the licensing board because I was posting my deals in these Facebook groups. And so August 2022, I got this like cease and desist letter from the licensing board. Like, we're going to open an investigation and you can't wholesale and all this. So I was like, oh my gosh, it scared the crap out of me. Like, I guess I got to stop wholesaling. At this point, I had done, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 flips and I don't know, maybe 50 rental properties or something. I was doing pretty well. And a little bit prior to this, I bought a mobile home park. And so I was like, well, I guess I could wholesale mobile home parks because it was mainly geared towards residential properties, but commercial was you're still allowed to wholesale. And so I had a little bit of knowledge of mobile home parks. I was like, all right, I'll do that. So I started calling around looking for mobile home parks, found one. I was going to wholesale it to this guy at a time fee like $75,000. I think I was going to get, and his name was Robert. And Robert found out how much I was making. He got a little upset with me. He was like, man, I don't want to pay that. How about I put up the cash and you just become a partner in this with me? I was like, okay, sure. So I became a 40% partner in that park. And we actually went on to partner on everything else. So we started flipping houses together. But what we mainly do now and what we discovered in early 2023 is land home packages. So we had this mobile home park together and it had some empty lots in it. And he was telling me how he had this dealer's license for mobile homes and could get brand new ones at wholesale prices. I was like, man, that's crazy. What can you get like a brand new double wide for? He's like, oh, I can get this for about $55,000. I was like, no way. Because in our market, you could put a double wide on some land and sell it for like $200,000. I said, dude, why don't we buy these brand new houses, go put them on a lot, like a little half-acre lot somewhere, and put on the market and sell it, make it FHA compliant. And he said, man, that's a great idea. So February 2023, we bought 5 lots that we were going to do this with, developed them, put these brand new houses on it, made them FHA, and sold them on the market. It went swimmingly. Ever since then, we decided to quit flipping houses because those are a disaster in comparison to these. And we kind of just took it and ran with the strategy. Since then, we do about 50 or 60 of these land home packages per year. Combined, we have a lot of mobile home parks. I think we have, 200-300 lots together and have done a lot of various things. But our main thing and basically all that we focus on is doing these land home packages and then shoveling our money into mobile home parks or things of the like for more long-term income.
Yeah. It's interesting how in real estate, it's almost like everybody doesn't have the same path, but there's a common theme of like, I tried this thing, it didn't work for me. I tried this other thing. And then a lot of times, then you kind of stumble on whether intentionally or a lot of times unintentionally, if you kind of figure out the thing that works for you and that you like. And it's interesting because it's not the same for everybody. Like some people are like, I really like this asset class or this, model around what I'm doing. And other people are like, no, I do whatever, the total opposite. So I think that's a really fascinating feature of real estate in that it is so kind of universal in so many different angles that you can approach it with. You, it's funny that you talk about the winter effect on pressure washing. Well, I grew up in Massachusetts.
All about the winter effect.
Yeah, South Carolina doesn't have a winter as far as I'm concerned, and right, the memories I have of like what we washed trucks, we washed like semis, like big.
Okay, yeah.
So we weren't doing houses, we were doing trucks, and the companies wanted their trucks washed all year round. And it had to be like below freezing, substantially below freezing for us to not work.
I sound like a wimp.
What's that?
I sound like a wimp.
No, you were smart about it. It was so miserable. So like, I really enjoyed the job in the summer, hated it in the winter. It was terrible.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was kind of funny when you said, nobody was doing it in the winter. And I was like, oh, where was that? But yeah, very, very different environment. But anyway, I mean, the transition to real estate, I do think a lot of people start in wholesaling. I've never done wholesaling. Frankly, I'm glad that people do it because it sounds like I want nothing to do with it. Again, sort of that whole theme of like, there's people that are very good at deal finding and wholesaling. That is, a good spot for them. And then there's people that might be really good in the construction process and flipping is good for them. And so it really varies. When you kind of moved from that due to legislation, basically, you came into the mobile home space. These land home packages are a really interesting concept to me. What do you have to do? I mean, kind of talk about the process there. What do you have to do to make that sellable? It sounds conceptually very simple. We buy a trailer and we put it on the spot, but do you have to add, water and sewer? Are you doing septics? Like, how do you handle all of that?
Yeah, so I like to compare it to house flipping because it's sort of the same principle, just doing a deal to get in and out of, selling it on the market. Yeah. And so when compared to house flipping, it is a lot simpler in some ways and a lot more difficult in other ways. And our main challenge when we started was we had no clue how to develop land. We had never done that before. We had plenty of experience with moving mobile homes around and setting them up because of our parks, but we had never done anything with land, subdividing it, going through the county processes, all of that. So essentially, or conceptually rather, the process is you buy a piece of land, you're going to do grading for it, get it cleared, all that jazz. Oftentimes we're buying raw land, so it doesn't have any utilities on site. Oftentimes it's in a rural setting because most city limits will not allow mobile homes. So for us, at least, we're often having to put in septic and we'll use public water. We don't do wells because the cost of them is astronomical. So we'll do a lot of septic lots. And we'll install utilities, order the house. The house will deliver. You got to have someone install it, which basically means block it, tie it down, make it a part of the land, essentially. We do the brick skirting for FHA compliance. It doesn't have to be brick. There's other options, but we use the brick one. We think it looks the best. You got to put decks on the house because it doesn't come with that. Install an outdoor HVAC unit, do a little gravel driveway, and then some landscaping, and then you're set up and on the market. The main thing for us and what we love about it so much is if we buy a piece of land today, we'll be set up and on the market within 60 days or less, typically around 45 days. And then we'll sell it within usually about 2 weeks. We're going under contract right now, tops. A lot of them selling within 1 or 2 days, which I know from our friends that are doing spec builds or flipping houses, that's like a pipe dream to them to go under contract within 2 weeks right now. Yeah. But these are selling extremely quickly. And usually we're in and out of a deal within 4 months. We buy a piece of land a day, we'll be closed out and have our money back within about 4 months. And that's what we love about it so much. It's a lot more predictable also. When we were flipping houses, a lot of the challenges that we had and costs that we had was either surprises. You go in there, you don't realize that, hey, all the subfloors rot out. We had no idea. Or the house needs to be rewired or whatever. Just things pop up that you weren't expecting. Then also when you go to sell it and you got buyers coming through with their inspections and all of that, they uncovered 10 grand worth of repairs that they were asking for, all that nonsense. But with these houses are built in the factory and they're inspected before they left the factory. So you know what you're getting every single time. We don't ever have to hold our breath when a buyer's getting their inspection like we had to when we were flipping houses. So we love that part of it. And then also the margins for it are a lot more predictable because there's no surprises. It's the same thing every single time. We're doing the same house. We know what things cost. There's nothing that can really pop up that's unexpected because we'll get a lot of our quotes before we even close on the land. So it's a lot more predictable. They sell really quickly also because there's nothing at these price points. For perspective, in our market, Greenville, the median sales price of a home, and don't quote me on this, is somewhere in the neighborhood of $400,000. Well, we're going to sell these things at $220,000, so we're at 60% of the median sales price, and that's why they're selling so quickly. And there's just nothing at these price points that can fill that demand.
Are you planning a remodel or construction project? Overwhelmed by the process? Over budget? Extended timelines? Strained relationships? We are all too familiar. At Lark Construction Services, we help homeowners and business owners take control of their construction journey, from reviewing bids and contracts to catching red flags before they become costly mistakes. Our Clarity Audit is a one-on-one expert review of your plans, estimates, or current progress, giving you the peace of mind and a defined action plan to move forward with confidence. Don't let confusion lead to costly errors. Visit larkconstruction.com and schedule your free call today. Lark Construction Services, saving you time, money, and stress.
Yeah. No, I mean, and Greenville's had a lot of growth over the last decade, probably at this point. But yeah, so I would imagine that I mean, I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but that sounds right. Having lived in Charleston and Charlotte, I know that corridor pretty well. But yeah, it sounds great. It sounds, a short sales cycle, high level of predictability, as you mentioned, all of that, and we have an affordability issue in the country in general, and so having something to be able to sell people a home at a more affordable price is it meets a need as well. What are the challenges? It sounds great. There's got to be something that maybe makes it hard in some way as well. What are the challenges that you see in that space?
Yeah, absolutely. There's plenty of challenges. Like I was mentioning earlier, our main challenge, at least starting out, was the process of developing land. We just had no idea how to do any of that. And so fumbling through the subdivision process, going through all the county hoops to get everything done, that was a learning curve for sure. And that's one of those things that once you do it once or twice, you kind of know it, but it will vary county by county. So that was one thing that was a challenge. Another thing that was a really big challenge for a while was funding. Because when we started this back in 2023, there was no one really talking about it. I actually thought that I came up with the land home packaging. I thought I was like a wizard. Because there was no one on YouTube talking about it. There was no one in our Facebook groups or local people that we knew talking about it. I didn't think anyone was doing it. And so there was no education around it either, which made that difficult. But when there's no education, no lenders understand what you're doing either.
Yeah.
So when we had to go to these hard money lenders or banks or whatever and pitch, hey, would you want to lend on this? And we kind of had to educate them on what we were even doing. The other problem that we ran into is, you may or may not know, a lot of banks don't like to deal with land, and a lot of banks don't like to deal with mobile homes. And we're putting the two together and asking them to fund it. So you can imagine how that conversation went a lot of times also. So that was a challenge. Now, since then, in recent times, I think there's a couple national lenders, like hard money lenders, that are now funding these. And we've got private lenders that we use. So we've kind of solved some of that problem, but that is still kind of a challenge with it, is if the lenders that we use won't go to a different market, it can be tough to fund. But I think that's changing. There's more conversation around it now than there was. I know there's a couple other people out there talking about it. So it has changed a little bit, but when we started, that didn't exist. So I would say the knowledge of going around the county and the development process was a huge challenge for us, as well as the funding of it. And then also the dealer's license. I've since gotten mine, and Roberts has his. But in South Carolina, it's one of the hardest states to get in, which is actually kind of surprising. But each state is a completely different process. Some of them are super easy. All you got to do is pay. Like in Georgia, you have to pay the fire marshal like $400, and they just give it to you, and that's it. But in South Carolina, we had to take a test, take a class, had to provide a personal financial statement. We had to show that we had at least 150 grand liquid cash in the bank, a bunch of different things that are kind of weird requirements.
Yeah.
But it was such a hassle to get there. But that's a state by state thing. But that was a challenge as well.
Yeah, South Carolina doesn't have a lot of other rules. That's what I'm saying. It's
extremely weird.
It's a really weird one to be so particular about. There's not a lot of rules happening in South Carolina at least when I lived there. What so I mean there's obviously, being at the forefront of sort of a new, call it asset class or just business model, whatever you want to say. It presents challenges in the sense, the funding type of situation is a big one, but also I'm sure allows you to be, you maybe have higher returns. I think a lot of, for a while, nobody was buying self-storage facilities, and then self-storage facilities got talked about a lot, and then suddenly you couldn't get them for as good of a price. And so I I would imagine that happens in a lot of instances where you have, people, once people start talking about it, start educating, then now you have a bunch of people that, hear you on a podcast and they're like, that sounds amazing. I'm going to do that.
Right.
And so the space can get crowded. Have you seen any of that yet? Or is it still, do you think this one's kind of still early in terms of adoption of this business model?
Yeah, yes and no. I think we have like an education group, the Land Home League, that we teach people how to do it. I know there's another guy, Chris Gavre, that's talking about it. Maybe one or two others, specifically talking about the land home packages. And there's definitely a lot more people getting into it. We've certainly noticed it. I mean, in our market alone, like I said, when we started 3 years ago, there wasn't a single person that I knew doing it. And since then, I think there's probably 10 people that I know that are doing it. People that I knew even back then, but they just hadn't thought of the idea. And I don't know if they just saw us doing it and then kind of wanted to try it. I don't know. Now, that's not enough to really make a difference. But yes, I think there are more people getting into it. However, as you kind of touched on earlier, affordable housing is such an issue no matter where you are in the country, or at least it seems that way. That I feel like there's enough room in this for more people to jump in. It hasn't impacted us negatively yet, but it is something that we've noticed is, hey, there's more people talking about this and there's more people getting into it. And I think some of that is almost like a migration of house flippers and spec builders. I mean, I have a lot of friends that flip and they've got houses sitting on the market now for a year that they just can't sell. And I think that they're starting to look at what other options are there, because flipping the $300,000-$400,000 house isn't working, at least in Greenville. Some of them are struggling. And so I think they're starting to look at what other options there are. So I think it's a combination of more people talking about it now, and some people starting to get burned a little bit on the more traditional approach of flipping a house or building a spec house. And that's something that Robert and I talk about a lot. Is, man, I hope that it doesn't get oversaturated. But when I think about that, my response is always, well, there's a lot of people that flip houses. There's a lot of people that have been flipping houses for 50 years now. And everyone and their mom wants to be an HGTV star. And maybe I would call flipping houses saturated, but there's still plenty of opportunity in it.
Right.
So I go both ways on that, but we're definitely seeing more people getting into it, to answer your question.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, that's a great point. The markets sort of make it easier or harder. And if you can be a good, whether it's house flipper, land home package, whatever you're talking about, if you're good at that in a difficult market, then you'll likely be one of the people that kind of rises above. When it gets easy, when the market was super hot and everybody was making money on flips, then everybody wanted to flip houses. But as soon as that dynamic went away, there's a lot of people have left the house flipping space, because it's like, oh, suddenly, like you said, houses are sitting on the market for a year, that people aren't making what they thought they were making. So it's like, now you've put a year's worth of work in, and you might make a couple grand instead of a couple of years ago you made $100,000 for that. So it is the market dynamics have shifted, and you do have to be adaptable to that. South Carolina, I mean, you said the broker's license or the dealer's license is hard to get. Do you need it to do what you're doing?
So, yeah, I probably should explain that earlier. Basically, what the dealer's license allows you to do is go directly to the manufacturer and get the houses at wholesale prices. Without that license, you're going to have to go to the retail lot. That if you ever drive down the road and see a little Clayton sign and some houses sitting out there, that's not actually Clayton. That's someone with a dealer's license like myself with a lot, and they're just promoting Clayton's products. The difference there is if you go to that retail lot, the same house that we're paying $60,000, $70,000 for, they're going to sell it to you for $90,000 or $100,000. So their markups almost destroy the margins on this. And this varies by state. In South Carolina, I believe you can't sell more than 2 or 3 per year legally without a license. Can't remember the exact number, but you can't buy or sell more than 2 or 3 mobile homes per year without it. So legally, you do have to have it. And again, that varies by state. Every state, some don't require it at all. But you do need it at least to be able to get those houses at wholesale rates, which that's your whole margin essentially.
Yeah, that makes sense. Are you? How many of these are you doing in a year? What do you?
Last year, I think we did around 50 to 60, somewhere in that neighborhood. No, currently, I think we've got 16 or 17 going at this moment in time.
Yeah. All in the Greenville area? Or are you expanded markets?
We typically do them within about an hour of upstate, which is upstate South Carolina, which is Greenville Metro. For people in our group, we funded a couple of their other projects. So we've got one going out in like Raleigh, North Carolina. We did a couple in Tennessee, some down in Georgia. But me and Robert, like our own business, we're only doing it in the upstate. And that's just because that's where we have all of our contractors and relationships. So it's easier.
Yeah. I mean, that's great to be able to do that much volume in, local to you. I think, more and more, it's very obvious that real estate's so very local, and having a level of expertise within your local market, and like you said, your relationships with your contractors and all of that. And I'm sure even just the the relationships with the counties and the cities and how they're going to, how much pushback you're going to get on whatever you're trying to do at each of these properties. So I think if you can do the volume that you want to do in your local area, it makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you plan to kind of stick with that, or you think you'll expand outside of South Carolina at some point, or have you given that much thought?
We have. So in our market, on average, we're netting somewhere around 40 to 45,000 on each of these deals. But we've got some guys in our group that are doing them down in Florida, and they're making like 75,000, and that's kind of tough to watch. And I mean that in a good way. But we're sitting there like, man, we could do. We got to do twice as many deals as them to make the same amount of money. I wonder if we should consider going to markets where the margins are better. And a lot of that is because a lot of these costs are fixed. What we pay for a house is the same price that they're paying for a house down in Florida. What we're paying for a septic tank is pretty much the same as what they're paying for a septic tank. Yeah. But the difference is they can sell it for $300,000 where we're selling for $230,000. And so that is kind of the beautiful thing about this is a lot of the costs are fixed, and it's kind of the same thing. It's easy to replicate. So we've definitely thought about going into other markets. I think we're kind of so busy with what we've got going on here that we're not in any hurry to do so. But it certainly crosses our mind. Yeah.
I mean, I think, not that Greenville is going to necessarily run out of space to do it, but ultimately, sometimes if you're trying to expand, you've got to have, multiple locations available to you. So that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Chris, I'm going to switch gears here a little bit just to kind of get to the things that, the questions I ask every guest. The name of the show is Know Your Why. And so your path is interesting through the real estate space. You've, wholesale, I guess, pressure washing, wholesaling, and then now on to mobile home parks and the land home packaging. What's driving you? You're also a relatively young guy, but what's driving you? What is your why? What's kind of behind the inspiration behind the success?
Yeah, well, that's certainly changed over the years. One thing that I didn't tell you early on, I was actually addicted to drugs for a long time, and I got clean when I was 19. And long story short, I got arrested. I got caught up in the wrong crowds, whatever. And that's why I started the pressure washing business. It was kind of something else for me to latch on to instead of me sitting around with nothing to do or getting high all the time or whatever. It gave me something to focus on and to chase after. And I needed that. And I still think that I need that to some extent. I don't have some big, powerful why that I would say. I don't think I have anything inspirational to say when it comes to that. But that's been my main driving force is I need something to focus on and pursue. And it's always kind of like I want to go grow more because that is the pursuit for me, I think. That's a big portion of it. And then I think a lot of it, like everyone, it's the lifestyle that they can provide. I like the idea of, hey, here I am at 27 and I don't necessarily have to go to work tomorrow if I don't want to. And that's kind of a cool thing to me. And so I think continuing to build more on that is also a big portion of it.
By the way, no wrong answers to that question. There's no,
Yeah.
there's not, it doesn't have to be, so I actually think that, beating addiction is a pretty, sort of inspirational story behind it. So, I think that it all matters. It all is, we all have our reasons for doing what we do. And I think, you sort of touched on one that is a very, very common theme and certainly important to myself, is just that flexibility of time. And, here I am, get to sit, Thursday, we're 3 hours difference, but, a Thursday afternoon-ish, and getting to just, hang out and be on a podcast, or you just don't have to have your schedule dictated by someone else, which I think is a really unrelated perk of being an entrepreneur, business owner, that sort of thing. So it's pretty cool. When people hear this and they want to connect with you, what's the best way for them to reach out?
Yeah, they can find me on Facebook. That's the main platform that I use. Chris, and then my last name is Gavre, Gavre. They also are Land Home League, where we talk about land home packages. We partner with Brent Bowers. I don't know if you know Brent, but he runs the Land Sharks coaching group, kind of teaching people how to get land. But anyway, we partnered with him for a group. So if people are interested in that, they can go to thelandsharks.com. Make sure you put the word "the" in there. Otherwise, you'll end up on the beer site of the Land Shark beer.
Yeah.
But yeah, people can reach out to me on Facebook, message me, whatever. Happy to answer any questions that they may have.
Okay, perfect. We'll make sure we get that in the show notes so people can find you. Chris, it was a great conversation. I really do appreciate having you on the show. I think you're only the second person I've ever, heard mention of this particular business model, and it's pretty compelling. So I think it's an interesting space that you're in, and I wish you all the success. Thank you for being on the show today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Folks listening, make sure you connect with Chris. Please like, rate, and review the show so we can continue to get great guests. And as always, thank you for listening.
Hey there, I am Dr. Jason Balara, and this is the Know Your Why podcast, where we explore the why behind success. Every week, I meet with real estate investors, veterinary entrepreneurs, mindset coaches, authors, and fitness professionals to uncover their why and how it drives them on the winding road to success. What is your why?